Hello and welcome to this week of Weekly Patch Notes. This episode of Weekly Patch Notes. This week we are on episode 61 and I am going to be your host. With me, as always, is Kojo. How are you doing?
I'm alive. How are you doing?
I'm alright. I was unavailable last week, but here I am present. With that said, unfortunately with us, we don't have Tommy, but expect him to be back next week unless unexpected circumstances were to come through. But with that said, let's give you guys your daily dose of gaming tidbits. Well, let's get it on.
Daily?
Good point. Weekly dose of gaming tidbits. So, with that said, admin and announcements. Do you have anything you want to share, Kojo?
Not this time.
All right. There are a few things I can speak about. Not necessarily gaming related, but that's what admin and announcements are for. Firstly is net neutrality in the US. The FCC have voted to bring that back, so that's a win. Otherwise, all I've been seeing on my gaming timeline has been there was Stellar Blade and there was something else eating up the timeline. But anyway, we'll get into that a little later. All right. So let's get into the gaming news. This week was a slow week from my side, from things I could see. But we begin talking about Nintendo. It's no secret, I've never been a fan of a company, as I believe they have a lot of anti-consumer practices that fans simply ignore. That if Sony or Microsoft were doing the same thing, they wouldn't be allowed to get away with it. Well, it seems like the narrative is slowly changing as people are becoming more vocal in their criticism of Nintendo. So, two things happened this week that left a sour taste in people's mouths. First, no homo, it was revealed by an Epic employee that Fortnite has never had Nintendo character skins like Samus because Nintendo don't want their IP to be appearing on other platforms. That is, they'll only allow Fortnite to have Nintendo characters if Fortnite agrees to make those skins exclusive to the Switch. Then, the next thing that irritated gamers with Nintendo is that apparently Gary's Mod has been issued a takedown to remove 20 years worth of Nintendo assets. To be fair though, it's not exactly clear if takedown requests are genuinely Nintendo or trolls. However, with that said, when it comes to Nintendo takedowns, you're better off not trying your luck and just listening to the demand. For those who don't know what Gary's Mod is, it's basically a physics-based sandbox game with no objective that is largely community supported with a wide range of mods. Then, turning our attention briefly to Microsoft. The company has released its Q3 earnings where gaming hardware revenue has declined while software has increased. The increase in software revenue is mainly attributed to the ABK merger, as we are beginning to now see the full integration of a company into Microsoft's gaming division. And speaking of Microsoft's gaming division, I should have saved a screenshot of this, or just should have saved a JPEG, so I'm going to call this off from memory. But Microsoft's gaming division in their revenue breakdown has gone from 4th to 5th, I believe, where it's been overtaken by, software and cloud services is number 1. Office products and services is number 2. I don't remember. Anyway, in the edits, we'll probably put down a screenshot of what it was so that people can have a clear look of what the breakdown is. With that said, smaller news. Blizzard announced in a press statement that there will be no BlizzCon this year as they opt instead to give news on World of Warcraft and Diablo 4's first expansion, Vessel of Hatred. And then to close up the news of this week, Escape from Tarkov fans should look away as the developers announce a $250 expansion that players are calling pay to win. It's not necessarily DLC, but it is separate components that are not necessary to the core gameplay, but if you purchase it, it will give you exclusive access to certain items. And this builds on from from the last paid expansion, which cost $140. If you purchase that expansion, supposedly this expansion is not as expensive. I believe maybe $100 is taken off. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, that's the gaming news. All right, coaches, is there any news you would like to share that I didn't touch upon?
You actually spoke about every single thing I was going to talk about, so nah.
All right, cool. So let's move on to the next section, the gaming corner. Kojo, take it away.
Okay, let's start off with the things that have been released for the week. Let's start off with a game called Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC, released on April 23rd, 2024. Currently sitting at a 79 on Metacritic. Next up, we have a game called Lunar Lander Beyond, released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, released on April 23rd, 2024. Currently sitting at a 65 on Metacritic. Then we have Phantom Fury, released on PC on April 23rd, 2024. And that's currently sitting at a 68 on Metacritic. Then we have a game called Tales of Kanzera Zao, released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC, also released on April 23rd, 2024. And that game is currently sitting at a 76 on Metacritic.
Damn, that's lower than I was expecting, given all of the given all of the marketing attention that game was receiving.
Yeah, I mean, it's another Metroidvania game, so.
Ubisoft? No, it was EA. EA published.
EA original, yeah.
That's the problem there, because if these games are not doing so well, EA just looks at it as like, yeah, this is why we don't do new stuff. So I was hoping it would do well just to give EA reason to continue their whole stuff.
Yeah, good point. Well, we'll just have to rely on Yosef Fares and what his team is working on next after It Takes Two. So, next up, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade Wrath of the Mutants, released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, released on April 23rd, 2024. That game is currently sitting at a 54 on Metacritic. Then we have Manor Lords, released on PC, released on April 26th, 2023. Then finally, we have the big one of the big ones of the year, Stellar Blade, as Maxwell mentioned early on, briefly, released on PlayStation 5, released on April 26th, 2024. You know it's Metacritic, Maxwell?
I do.
Cool. So yeah, that is it for the releases of the week. Now moving on to the gaming corner, I just wanted to talk. Yes.
You're not gonna tell the listeners what the score was?
Oh right, sorry. The score for Stellar Blade is an 82, which is a little bit higher than what I was expecting. So
it's actually a little lower than what I was expecting. Like before the fanfare with that one, I thought it was gonna be around 84, 86.
fanfare does not equal quality, Maxwell.
Yeah, but then sometimes fanfare makes people overlook quality, like with Nintendo stuff.
Here we go.
I'm just spitting facts.
Debatable. But let's actually talk a little bit more about Stellar Blade, which is what I wanted to talk about next. So Stellar Blade, made by Shift Up. I was watching these behind the scenes that Sony did and that Shift Up did on making the game. I suggest there was 2 parts. I suggest people go watch it, and you can see the passion from these developers. And it blows my mind because this game was announced 3 years ago, 2021. It was known as Project Eve, and it just looked like one of those games that'll just come and go. I was about to say another game, but I'm not going to mention it because it's not fair to just say, oh, that game is just whatever, which it isn't. But
no, say it. We want the tea.
No, I'll tell you off air. So yeah, so I just thought it was going to be one of those games, but it turns out that it's not. And the reason why I'm happy for this is because, and the developer Kim Tae-yoon, I think his name was, the lead developer or the creative director on Stellar Blade, he mentioned in the documentary, and I believe, and he is right, that there are not a lot of console games coming out of Korea. It's mostly mobile stuff, and that's what they Shift Up were working on, mostly mobile games, or all mobile games. And this was their first leap into console games, a big budget console game. So I'm very happy that the game is doing well critically. I hope it does well sales wise, commercially. That's the word I was looking for. I hope it does well commercially, because there's another Korean game that came out last year that also shows that the Korean market is rife for, there's talent for console games from Korea. You remember what that game was, Maxwell?
Nope, not at all.
It was Lies of P.
Oh, that was Korean?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Well, now you do. The more you know, you learn something every day, new every day. So yeah, I'm happy for the. Yeah.
I just don't. I feel like we don't get Korean developers just because the market is not suited for that. Mobile games, like the Korean market, they largely consume mobile games, like how the Japanese market largely consumes mobile games themselves, and that's why you're seeing less and less Japanese corporations and more of them focusing on mobile stuff. Like why we always get these weird ass Square Enix mobile games, but in Japan that's commonplace. In the rest of the world, we're like, Square, why the hell are you focusing so much on mobile games? But it's because the Japanese market consume that type of content more readily. So I feel like it's the same thing with Korea. Maybe it's a thing with Asia where mobile games are more accessible and more played. So commercially, it makes more sense. That's how I look at it.
No, that's what, and the director's name is Kim Hyun-tae. Sorry, I swapped the names. But that's exactly what he said. You know, mobile markets is what rules that part of the world. And there isn't much of a thing for, or a need for, console games. And it shows that, and the thing is, when I saw the reveal trailer, or when I saw like the gameplay material and I saw the demo and I saw all of these things, I sort of formed an opinion of what reviewers were going to say in my head about the game before release, and I was pretty much right, in the sense that reviewers across the board pretty much agree that the combat is what carries the game. Combat, the exploration parts of it, the level design, certain gameplay elements that are presented in the game, those are what carry the game. What drops the game is the characters and the story. And that's what I pretty much thought. I thought the characters were going to be flat, and I thought the story was going to be whatever. And looks like that's...
To be fair, I feel like it's harsh judging the character and story, because like, I feel when it's your first game, or amongst your first game, you have to pick your evil. Either A, be gameplay focused, or B, be narrative driven. I don't feel like when you're starting off, you can focus on the two because you're dividing your attention thin. Because what comes to mind is Biomutant, where they scaled way too large, and a lot of times we see a lot of developers scaling way too large for the first game, where it's just like, no, make something small, compact, and achievable. Learn from that, get the revenue out of that, and grow from there. Let's not get over ambitious at the start. Like, that can come down years later when you've grown, when you have a number of games under your belt where maybe you want a publisher to support you financially. You can show your history to show we've made successful games. And then you can be over ambitious with this because now you also have the know-how of what are certain pitfalls and our own experiences, what are areas we could have improved on, you know?
Yeah, I know, and that's what I was actually gonna say that next. I was gonna say exactly what you said next. I was gonna defend them and say this is their first game. This is their first big game. And I was gonna pretty much echo what she said, that they have to choose. They're not, seeing as they made mobile games, I'm pretty sure those mobile games, I don't really know what they are, but I'm pretty sure they were not narrative focused. So,
because later down the path they can get a narrative director or stuff like that. Because I also feel like if I compare Eastern games to Western games, I would argue that Eastern games are more focused. Specifically, they usually are more focused on the gameplay elements, whereas Western games tend to be more over ambitious. Or maybe I shouldn't even say over ambitious, I should just say ambitious. Like, they try to incorporate a lot of things which are not necessary. Whereas Eastern games are not necessarily overly worried about incorporating many things. Because from what I see, when Eastern games do that, they go through development hell and we never see it come to light. Western games, on the other hand, we do see them and they're an abomination.
Yeah, it's true. And there's certain reviewers who, and you can say the same thing about Lies of P, that Eastern games really draw on inspirations and sometimes they lean too hard. Like, there's this one reviewer who was talking about Stellar Blade, and he was like, he feels like this is a worse version of Nier Automata in terms of story and narrative and characters. And he kept on saying that if you didn't play Nier before this game, you'd like the narrative and story, you like this, but he was like, but I played Nier before this and I can't help but compare the two and say this is worse. Although he ended up saying, no, you should still go out and play the game because the rest of the gameplay carries it. But
I don't like comparisons like that. Like, if maybe somebody within Stellar Blade worked on Nier, then I'll be like, you know what, that's a fair comparison because these people are, or this person is drawing on past experience and he should lean away from that. But then when it's people who have nothing associated, it's just like, dog, give them a break. Like, maybe they wanted to do something Nier inspired, which is just slightly different. Because me personally, I'm never going to complain about a game being a ripoff of something else unless it's from the same company, same developers or something. Like, if Square is making something Nier adjacent, that's when I'm like, bro, you've got Nier. Why are you doing this? But if it's somebody completely different, it's like, nah, let them. Maybe they'll touch upon something which Nier or other games haven't exactly realized. All right. With that said, then, for those of you still listening, thank you for being with us. Take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It will be much appreciated and it will go a long way. With that said, we'll move on to the next segment. That is the Twitch let's just say that is the content creator news. All right, Kojo, do you have anything to regale us with?
Well, I really wasn't going to say anything, but because I was like, I have nothing. But then Tammy usually talks about these drama tidbits and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna say it off the top of my head. I don't know if there are any articles written about this. Pardon?
We always look forward for some tea.
Yeah, I'm just gonna freestyle this. I'll be pulling up stuff if I feel like I'm misrepresenting certain things. So there's this. Okay, let's start off with. So what I'm going to talk about pretty much centers on Asmondgold. Now, I don't know how much you know of Asmondgold. If you've seen him, if you've heard his takes before, Maxwell, about certain things.
We've spoken about him at length as before.
Yes. So Asmond is the type of person that is not afraid to say his opinion on anything, whether it's controversial. And if he believes that he's right about something, he will double down or even triple down. And that's one thing I respect about him. I wish I could be that brave. But so Hassan, who everybody knows and is infamous, people hate him, people love him, depends on your stance. He went on Piers Morgan and to debate again about Israel-Palestine again. And
Wait. Why is Hassan being invited to that as if he's an expert in the field?
I mean, he is a political commentator and he did study this stuff in school.
Yeah, but has he ever written any articles on the stuff? Has he ever gone reporting on the stuff? Has he ever been on the field? Like, I feel like there's so many more qualified people Piers Morgan could have brought along.
Piers Morgan has brought along those people before. He has. He's brought upon Israelis and Palestinians.
Scraping at the bottom of the barrel.
I wouldn't say Hassan is bottom of the barrel, bro.
I mean, in terms of political viewpoints, I would, because it's like, I could be a political commentator on something, but have I actually gone out there, written articles, written papers, talked to people on the field and things like that, which actually puts a bit of value to my thing? Or am I just comfortably sitting in my studio talking about topics, even if I studied it?
Yeah, but the thing is, he's been invited to more places to speak about things, and he's been on stage to speak about things, and he's been a political commentator for the Young Turks and other publications. Well, not other publications, but stuff like that. Have you? No. Have I? No.
Those positions can just come with clout. But anyway, let me stop my hating and let me let you go on. I just think it's very odd for a very odd choice, but that's my opinion.
Well, this is not the second time. I mean, this is not the first time. I think this is like the third time he's been brought on. But this time he was brought on with two other people. I didn't really watch the interview because I just don't really care to watch for that particular topic. Not that I'm saying I'm disregarding the topic. It's just not one that I want to engage with much.
The minute Hassan has an opinion on something, I stop caring about it.
Of course you do. So pretty much they were talking about Israel-Palestine going at each other. Hassan and Piers always go at each other. And then Asmondgold was reacting to the video. And he paused it and then he spoke about, there were just clips that went viral on Twitter. And he spoke about how people were, I forgot where it was, but you saw that pro-Palestine protesters blocked off like a bridge and like blocked off the road to protest, right? I forgot where it was. It was in America, obviously. I forgot where it was. But basically, Asmondgold said that, look, he is actually he's more, now that he knows more about the subject and he's watched more and he's educated himself more, he is pro-Palestine, more pro-Palestine than Israel. He thinks Israel is more in the wrong. He's like, they both are doing dumb things, or not dumb things. They're both they're both doing bad things. But he feels like Israel is more in the wrong. And he's like, yeah, I am more pro-Palestine. However, the things you are doing, the pro-Palestine, protesters, them blocking the road, he was like, you are inconveniencing someone who's working a minimum wage job, just trying to get to his job, just trying to provide for his family, blocking off the road. And he's like, if you do that, I will actually be more against your cause. You know what? That's what he was saying. He was like, but he was speaking from like an objective point. And that's what he says. It's like, if it was me and I was in that position, I would be against your cause because now your cause is interfering with my life. And he's like, and Asmondgold again, he's like, look, he is pro-protest. He believes in protesting, but there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. And people commented on that and people went at him saying that he's this and that. his takes are bad, blah blah blah. He gets this a lot. And then there was this streamer, this woman who was, I guess, once popular upon a time. Her name is Casey Tron, but she's not anymore. She averages hundreds of views, but not like in the low hundreds, you know. And her thing, the reason why I know of her is because she and XQC go back and forth a lot. When XQC was breaking up with his girlfriend Adept, Casey Tron was like, XQC is a manipulator and an abuser. But she went on to clarify, not a physical abuser. But, you know, she went on to do this, and she was just, you know, going after XQC, calling him names and stuff like that. That's exactly what Asmondgold says, and that's exactly what XQC is saying. And so she went after.
Like she's just being a contrarian against somebody popular so she can get noticed.
That's exactly what they're saying. Like, she's just trying to stay relevant. So she went after Asmondgold, and she said no. So she liked certain things. I think she said because another part of Asmondgold is that people know his lifestyle. His lifestyle is notorious for being not great. He doesn't really clean up after himself much. Well, he does from time to time, but he lives his environment is not the best in terms of his house. It's dirty. It's, you know, he keeps cups and food all over the place in his attic that he streams from. So a lot of people have formed this opinion about Asmondgold that he doesn't shower, he probably smells bad, he lives in a pigsty. So every time someone counters Asmondgold, and he's noticed it, and he said it before, he was like, people don't counter what I say. People always go after how I live. They always say things like, when I talk about issues and I put out my viewpoint, people always go, yeah, but you're bald. Yeah, but you're ugly. Yeah, but you live like this. They never have an intelligent thing to say about what I have to say. And I've noticed this as well. And I actually sat down, and I look at all the comments on Twitter, because he was trending on Twitter for a while. And everybody was pretty much saying what he was saying, that they weren't going after what he was saying. They were attacking him personally. And he was like, you know what, those attacks don't bother me personally. However, Casey Tron liked a tweet that was like, at least, it went something along the lines of, at least XQC's lifestyle didn't lead to the death of his mother like Asmond's, you know, something along those lines. And Asmond lost his mom a few years ago. And Asmond's that he made a whole video on that. His mom had issues. She was obese. She had to be on a ventilator. She was a habitual smoker. She drank soda a lot. She was just unhealthy. So she just had a lot of things wrong with her. So she passed away because of those things. But Casey Tron liked the tweet saying, and she went on to say, yeah, but Asmond's living style, living conditions is what caused her to die. You know, she was like, oh, I have a fraction of his funds, his, you know, resources, but I take better care of my parents than he does. He should be, you know, that kind of stuff. And I was like, that is a low blow. That is low. Like, it's one thing to go after someone. It's another thing to go after their dead relative, to bring that up. And I'm like, wow. And Asmondgold saw that video and he was like, you know what, he's not, it's malicious. She's disgusting for saying that, but he's not offended. Because she also attacked her. Well, she attacked him first. And then he attacked her saying, yeah, but you smoke weed a lot and you're fat. And SQC's pretty much said the same thing, that leave us, like, SQC was like, hey, leave Asmond alone, look at your lifestyle, you smoke weed a lot and you're overweight. So you have no right to talk. So that's pretty much just a bit of drama that's been going on in the Twitch world. I just thought I'd bring that up. I'm sure Tommy would have. I wasn't going to, but people like tea. Maxwell, what did you think about this story?
Yeah,
do you think she was right in bringing up his mother? Or?
Like, why are you asking me that as if she has a leg to stand on? Like, I feel like objectively anyone can see that people are reaching and trying to be critical about Asmondgold. Like, it's one of those things where when you don't like somebody, you generally don't like them, you're not ready to look past certain things because you just want to be critical without giving any validity to anything they're saying.
Yeah.
So in that regards, I just feel like, Asmondgold is within complete rights to do as he pleases. People are just getting butthurt over nothing. But I want to change your attention to something else.
Okay.
Something which you may or may not be able to speak on. Me, I clearly cannot, but you might have heard more about it and you can speak to it.
Okay, hit me.
I show speed Kai Cenat.
I actually don't know what's happening there. I genuinely don't. I just saw that, a friend of ours said, voice crack, a friend of ours said that I should speed release a diss track, and I'm like, he did, but these two have this project together. They made music together. They made a song together. They had this show on Rumble together. I don't know if it's still going on. So I don't know what's happening there. I really don't.
If it's true, then it's just cloud chasing, because these guys are all just chummy and friends, like I Show Speed appearing on WWE for Prime and crap like that.
That was funny.
The thing which was funny, like, he's an idiot, but the thing which was funny was him getting in the Ronaldo's better.
Yeah.
But yeah. Outside of that, the only thing I've heard of, I haven't seen, it was last week, so I couldn't talk about it. Maybe you guys spoke about it, but maybe it's developed furthermore, because I've just been in the boonies. I've just been nowhere mentally. But Neon getting arrested in, was it Dubai?
Yeah, apparently that was a nothing burger.
No. Apparently it was a nothing burger. Then it turned out that he did get caught up in some stuff, but it didn't escalate to the way people were claiming it online. The situation was very controlled, but he was trying to come off as tough because he did go to jail and whatnot, but then he was just spending time in jail while they were processing things. Because he released a video claiming, he was the big dog in the jail. Everybody was talking to him and shit like that. It's just like, yeah, sure, bro. Sure. But I think that's it for some content creator gossip. And we can move on to the next segment, which relates to e-sport news. It's in the game. Kojo, got anything to say on esports?
No, I have nothing for esports.
Right, because God knows I have nothing. All right, cool, Leo. So we can go into discussions. Do you have anything you want to discuss?
Not really, but even if I did, it would have been a group discussion.
I mean, if you have something small, we can discuss it now. If it's pretty big, then yeah, it's better left for group discussions. Because I've got a discussion, but it's pretty big, so I just want to hold it off when Tommy's there.
Okay, yeah. You tell me, what is your take on? So you've seen, obviously, you've seen before the release of Stellar Blade, you saw the whole discourse. Pardon?
I was just saying I'm red pill.
Yeah, I figured. So, what is your take on Eve's body situation?
Yeah, I see nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with her body?
Yep, because I am of the opinion that they are desexualizing things, and I'm not a big fan of it. I like a middle ground where we have some sexualized stuff and some non-sexualized stuff. So I'm grateful for the people who are still sexualizing stuff, because people are like, no, you can't do this about women's body, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. Nah, some things should be and some things shouldn't be. We just need to look at the genre and the nature of the game, and then we can be like, yeah, you know what? This is a field where it's normally like this. Because how about with male figures? Because this always goes back to female heroines getting sexualized and whatnot. Bro, look at these male figures or heroes who you may not call it being sexualized, but they are unattainable standards. The same thing that they say about women, but you don't see guys complaining. Look at effing Master Chief. Look at effing Marcus Phoenix. Look at who else can I think of?
Are they sexualized?
No, I'm saying not sexualized, but I'm saying unattainable goals or ideas or ideals or physical things.
Oh, there's Kratos.
Yeah, Kratos, exactly. Look at He-Man. Like, all of these things are around us, and you don't see men complaining. You see guys saying, I love it because I want this thing that looks cool. So why can't we look at on the female side and look at this thing that looks sexy? Like, let's explore the entire spectrum, right? We can have bulky ass chicks who look like they'll beat up a dude. We can have slim, sexy chicks who look like they'll be a bedroom poster. And we can have chicks who aren't lookers at all, but maybe there's something else that you like about them. Let's have an entire spectrum. Let's not gatekeep. Let's not try and tell people what they should and shouldn't like. Like, that's the part where I'm not a fan of. Let's have an open field where people can put whatever they want and nobody should be shamed for it. What's wrong with that? Because what's the negativity in letting people do as they please? Because people are going to talk about unrealistic standards, but bruh, these things are fictional. If you cannot separate yourself from fiction, then the problem's with you, not with the industry, not with the situation. And I feel like the problem with going in today's world society is we're trying to gatekeep and control too many things. Like, so let's relax on these things. Let's let people be great. So with Eve's body, I think it's a nice change. Because another example, like, I can give you a chain of examples. It would be sticking to female characters who have been desexualized over the course of gaming. Mortal Kombat is a number one. Even Tekken, to some extent, have also begun doing it. Halo with Cortana. Notice after, what the hell were they called? They were Bungie. After Bungie left, Cortana was being given more covering, let's call it, under 343. And then we've got what's his new partner called? I forgot her name. The something. Yeah, I don't remember what the hell her name was, but she's completely covered. Where it's just like, we are making sexy taboo. Like, bruh, what is wrong with something looking sexy, something looking over sexualized? Nothing wrong with that.
No, I hear you. And even the director came out and confirmed in an interview that the Eve's body was based on a model, a real model. Shin Jae-in, I think her name was. I forgot her name, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to Google her.
Of course. She actually released a video, I think it was like 2020, a video of her on her YouTube being like scanned. Like, you know, those where you stand in the middle and that cameras around you taking pictures. Yeah. So but she released a short video.
Even then, if it wasn't based on a real body, who cares? Like, I feel like people have too much free time to be complaining about such things. Let's talk about stuff that actually makes a difference. You know, like the whole, like, representation, for example. I can get that, the argument for representation, but again, it's within reasons, like we previously discussed, which is going to be coming up. People should be on the lookout for that. Actually, by the time this video goes up, the video should be up. Like how we discussed on representation in gaming. Representation matters, but it should be done right. So sexualization in gaming, I don't think is an issue. Like, what's wrong with, because people are gonna, because it also reminds me of when we're having all of those arguments of violence in video games. It's like, no, none of these things create a society or community of a certain thing. If you have a problem, it just enhances that problem, but it's not going to create problem. It just adds on to problems that are already pre-existing. Like, video games don't make people violent. If you have a violence issues, it was there before the video game. You're probably using video games as a what is that word called for
scapegoat.
When you not scapegoat, but as an outlet, a fantasy outlet. for like somebody who's violent. Like for me, for example, I love violent video games, but all of the things I do on a video game, I'll never do it in real life. Like Gears of War, I love the different killing techniques. Mortal Kombat, I love the fatalities. In these games like Last of Us or Tomb Raider, I love you can see the character actually dying in a gruesome manner as opposed to the screen going black or things like that. I like that. But you're not going to see me go out executing those things. I've never been in a I've never been in a fight in my life outside of with my siblings. Yes, I love violent video games. I've never gone out shooting guns. I've never done any of these things that I love doing on video games. But supposedly video games make you violent. And I started playing video games at the age of 3. Why am I not violent? So it's things like that where it's your personality. And these things are just feeding the monster. If there's already a monster there, yes, these things add on to it. But if there's no monster there, they're not doing any harm. So we should stop trying to control games so much, talking about violence, talking about representation, talking about sexualization, talking about drugs, and all of these different things. Let's relax.
Yeah, I hear you. Hi, very good points that you brought up. I also thought the whole discourse was just silly. I didn't even notice. Like, it's one of those things where I didn't notice until you pointed out, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I just thought she looked like a normal character. I'm like, okay, yeah, no. I wasn't even focused on her character. I was focused on the game and what the game was and the gameplay from the trailers. And then people pointed out her body.
I saw that ass from jump, and I was like, yes, thumbs up.
I didn't even. Like, I was like, yeah, she's cool looking and all, but if anything, it's not the bodies that's what touched me, it's the faces. The faces just look so porcelain, especially hers.
Yeah, like a doll.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, same. I just looked at it as it's very animated, drawn, cartoonish. Like, I'm not going to be thinking too much about it because I also think people are overly stuck on worrying about how characters look. Like, remember when there was the whole Aloy debacle about she looks ugly and whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
I sort of get where people were coming from with that, but now for me, Aloy was somebody who I never even looked at. So they could have changed the entire appearance. I would have never been like, what have you done to my girl? I would have just been like, okay, cool, I'm continuing playing. Because for me, right, I think I hyper focus on what's supposed to be a feature, a large feature of on characters. Aloy was never about her physical appearance. So whether she grows weight, whether she loses weight, whether she looks sexier, whether she looks uglier, for me, it was never something I was going to pay attention to. But if you give me a character who's supposed to look sexy and now you're changing them up, that's when I'll be paying attention. Like Tifa from Final Fantasy, Ada Wong from Resident Evil. Who else is supposed to be a hot-looking character who's changed over time? Hell, let's say Melina from Mortal Kombat. Things like that. Change those characters, I'm going to notice because these were key points in their earlier creation. But then, okay, I was about to say someone like Lara Croft. I was like, no, she was sexualized from the jump.
Yeah.
But then I'll argue with Lara Croft that the new version, when they remade it, because everything before the reboot, Lara Croft looked cartoonish. She never looked realistic. So with the new model, I never had any issues with it because that was the first time for me it looked realistic. So with her not being as sexy as the previous version, I didn't think too much about it because I had never seen a realistic version of Lara Croft. I had always seen a cartoonish looking version. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to, is it part of their features and things like that, if I'll notice it or not. For example, Tifa in Final Fantasy VII is very sexualized, but then you've got Eris, who's not even sexualized. Nobody was talking about how she looks and stuff like that. The whole focus was on Tifa because people love her look. So again, I go back to there's nothing wrong with sexualizing the character. If you just, I think now you're overdoing it when it's like, I just realized. You don't see anybody complaining about Bayonetta.
Yeah, no, people don't complain about Bayonetta. People didn't complain about 2B to an extent.
Exactly. So for me, the whole sexualized thing, it's a nothing burger. Like, the only time I'll complain, the same way where we say do representation within reason, with sexualizing, I think it only gets cringy when it's now that's the entire character's persona. There's nothing, the character is flat and it's all just about sexualizing her or him, and there's nothing more to it. The game sexualizes her, other characters are sexualizing her, and different things like that. Then I feel it's problematic. But if it's just, oh, she's a very sexy looking character, but then that doesn't get in the way of her being a badass or her being a character or in her world doing whatever she needs to be doing, who cares? Who cares that she looks hot?
I get you. I hear you. But yeah, that was it for my discussion, pretty much. My impromptu discussion.
Right, cool. So then, now we wrap up with the news blitz. On my side, I don't have anything blitzy to share. Kojo, do you have anything?
Absolutely nothing.
Right, cool. So we call it a wraps. All right, then, to the listeners out there, thanks for joining us this week. Again, Tommy apologizes for not being available, but he will be back next week. And if you haven't done it already, like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support we get. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again the following week. I have been your host. Thanks, and good night. Or goodbye. Or good morning, actually. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Enjoy.